Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the news from SABA Satellite Channel. From Marib, here are tonight's top stories.
President Al-Alimi called for comprehensive national unity in the battle to restore state institutions and in the coup.
National Defense Council approves package of measures to support the battle for liberation and resume oil exports.
Prime Minister praises Saudi support for Yemen's development and recovery.
Welcome back. President, the Presidential Leadership Council and Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, Dr. Rashad Al-Alimi, called on all Yemenis to unite behind the state and support the armed forces and security institutions, what he described as the national effort to restore state institutions, protect the Republic and end the Houthi coup. In a televised address to the nation, Al-Alimi announced the resumption of Yemen's oil exports effective immediately, saying all revenues would be directed towards serving citizens across the country. He said the priority would be meeting the state's core obligations, including paying public sector salaries, improving essential services, and strengthening economic stability, while ensuring Yemen's natural resources benefit all Yemenis.
Today I address you at a defining moment in our nation's history after long years of war, suffering, starvation, and oppression. And after recent events have confirmed beyond any doubt that this tragic reality was not an inevitable fate, but rather the direct result of the coup by the terrorist militia that choose weapons over the state, sectarianism over citizenship, and the interest of the Iranian regime over those of the Yemeni people.
Al-Alimi said the humanitarian and economic crisis faced Yemen was a direct consequence of the Houthi coup and years of conflict. He accused the militia of undermining state institutions, looting public resources, recruiting children, obstructing salary payments, and prolonging the war in line with what he described as Iran's regional agenda. Addressing residents in Houthi-controlled areas, the president urged them not to be misled, but what he described false propaganda and appealed to all Yemenis, including tribal leaders, political forces, youth, and women, to rally behind the state and support the armed forces in protecting Yemen's sovereignty and restoring its institutions.
I say to our people in every government, especially to our fellow citizens in areas forcibly controlled by the militia, don't be deceived by its inflammatory rhetoric and false slogans. Don't allow your sons to become fuel for its feudal wars. Those who now claim to be fighting to lift the blockade are the very ones who confiscated your freedoms, stole your children's livelihoods, withheld your salaries, closed the doors of opportunity for your sons and daughters, and turned your suffering into a tool for blackmailing the world. Time has come for Yemen to restore its state, for its citizens to reclaim their dignity, and for this nightmare, which has lasted for longer than it ever should have, to come to an end.
President, the Presidential Leadership Council and Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, Dr. Rashad Al-Alimi, chaired an emergency meeting of the National Defense Council attended by all members of the Presidential Leadership Council, senior government officials, military leaders, and heads of the legislative and consultative bodies. The meeting reviewed readiness of the armed forces and all military formations to respond to escalating Houthi threats and discussed efforts to mobilize national resources in support of restoring state institutions and ending the coup. Military and security officials briefed the council on coordinated measures to counter Houthi activities, prevent attempts to impose realities outside the state's exclusive authority, and advance plans to resume oil exports. Officials said revenues would be directed toward paying public salaries, improving essential services, and strengthening economic stability.
The Council reaffirmed that restoring state institutions, protecting Yemen's sovereignty, and safeguarding the Republican system remain top national priorities. It called on all Yemenis to support the armed forces and security institutions in carrying or out their constitutional duties. The meeting also approved additional military, security, economic, and administrative measures to strengthen state preparedness for potential challenges, while reaffirming the government's commitment to protecting civilians and adhering to international law. The Council also praised Saudi Arabia's continued support for Yemen's state institutions and welcomed international condemnation of what it described as Iranian violations of Yemen's sovereignty.
Presidential Leadership Council member and Hadramaut Governor Sanem Al-Khambashi has directed military and security forces in Hadramaut's coastal and valley districts to raise their level of readiness and reinforce precautionary measures in response to the Houthi military movements backed by Iran. Speaking during the second meeting of the Preparatory Committee for the Higher Coordinating Council of Hadrami Political and Social Forces in Mukalla, Al-Khambashi said the militia's military mobilization requires the highest level of vigilance to protect Hadramaut's security and stability. He also stressed the importance of completing the Council's founding documents according to schedule and building a broad Hadrami consensus to strengthen unity and serve the governorate's interest. Al-Khambashi expressed deep sorrow over the deaths of Homeland Shield Forces personnel in the recent terrorist attack in Reima, calling for those responsible to be tracked down and brought to justice. He emphasized that no acts threatening public security or stability in Hadramaut would be tolerated.
Presidential Leadership Council member Dr. Abdullah Al-Alimi has concluded a high-level diplomatic visit to London, where he sought to reframe Yemen's crisis as regional and global security priority. Through meetings with the British officials, lawmakers, and international policy institutions, Al-Alimi presented the government's vision for peace, warned of Iran's support for the Houthi militia, and highlighted the growing impact of the conflict on international security and global maritime trade. More in the following report.
From the British capital London, one of the world's most influential centers for international policy making and Middle East strategy, Presidential Leadership Council member Dr. Abdullah Al-Alimi led an intensive political and diplomatic campaign aimed at repositioning the Yemeni issue on the international agenda, extending well beyond the scope of bilateral relations. Through meetings with the British government and parliament, international media outlets, and leading policy and research institutions, Dr. Al-Alimi presented the Yemeni crisis not as a domestic conflict, but as a direct threat to regional and international security, as well as to freedom of navigation and global trade across the Red Sea and the Arabian Sea. Addressing the London Conference 2026, which brought together senior officials, experts, and policymakers from around the world, Dr. Al-Alimi conveyed the Yemeni government's concerns over Iran's attempts to expand its influence in Yemen by operating direct flights between Tehran and Sana'a outside internationally recognized legal frameworks. He said the flights represent not only a violation of Yemen's sovereignty, but also a channel for continued transfer of military support to the Houthi terrorist militia and a direct challenge to relevant UN Security Council resolutions. During meetings with British officials and parliamentarians, Arab diplomats, policymakers, and experts at leading think tanks, Dr. Al-Alimi outlined the government's vision for a political settlement. He stressed that any agreement failing to end the coup, restoring the state institutions, and ensure the state's inclusive control over weapons would not resolve the root causes of the conflict, but instead risk perpetuating instability and reducing any settlement to a temporary truce vulnerable to collapse. The visit also carried key economic messages, focusing on the consequences of Houthi attacks on Yemen's oil export facilities and the resulting pressure on the state revenues and the government's ability to meet its financial obligations. It further addressed the Yemeni crisis from a broader security and military perspective, emphasizing the link between Yemen's stability, the security of global trade routes, the restoration of state authority, the strengthening of national security and military institutions, and the protection of international navigation in the Red Sea. Dr. Al-Alimi's visit gained more significance because the United Kingdom remains one of the most influential countries shaping the Yemen file at UN Security Council. The visit therefore went beyond diplomatic protocol, serving as an effort to present the Yemeni issue from multiple strategic perspectives and deliver the Presidential Leadership Council's and government's messages to key international capitals, underscoring that Yemen is no longer solely a domestic issue but an international matter tied to regional and global security, the stability of strategic maritime corridors, and the protection of international interests.
Parliament Speaker Sultan al-Barakani said the latest statement issued by the Houthi militia reflects directives from Iran and is aimed at pressuring Saudi Arabia through baseless claims despite the kingdom's efforts to support peace and end Yemen's crisis. In social media post, al-Barakani said the statements revealed the militia's growing weakness and political bankruptcy, arguing that it had rejected every opportunity for peace and become fully aligned with Iran's regional agenda. He warned that the militia's threat to disrupt an international shipping route represents a dangerous escalation that puts it in direct confrontation with the international community and threatens regional and international security. Al-Barakani also said the Houthis had undermined all peace initiatives by choosing continued escalation, adding that this course would ultimately hasten the end of their coup and the restoration of state institutions.
Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Dr. Shaya al-Zindani praised Saudi Arabia's leadership, government, and people for their continued support to Yemen and their role in helping the government address humanitarian, economic, and service challenges. During a meeting in Aden with Ahmed Madkhali, Director of Saudi Program for Development and Reconstruction in Yemen's Aden office, al-Zindani described the program as a strategic partner in implementing the government's development and service priorities.
He expressed hope for expanding cooperation in the coming period to accelerate economic recovery and improve essential services in Aden and other liberated governorates. The Prime Minister also received a briefing on progress of key development projects being implemented by Saudi Arabia program, as well as its future plans and priority sectors for cooperation with the Yemeni government.
Yemen reaffirmed its commitment to strengthen the health sector's response to violence against children and expanding cooperation with the World Health Organization, UNICEF, and international partners to protect children's rights and ensure access to safe and integrated health services. The pledge was made by Ministry of Public Health and Population Dr. Qasim Bouhaybeh during the regional ministerial meeting of violence against children held virtually by the World Health Organization in partnership with UNICEF. Bouhaybeh said more than 11 million children in Yemen continue to face serious risks due to the humanitarian crisis caused by the war, highlighting the need for greater national, regional, and international efforts to expand health, mental health, and psychosocial support services. He noted that the Ministry of Health, together with World Health Organization, UNICEF, and development partners, is implementing programs to strengthen healthcare workers' capacities, improving case management and referral systems, and expand mental health services for children affected by violence. The minister said 668 children received specialized mental health and psychosocial support services during 2025 and 2026. He stressed that protecting children is a shared national and humanitarian responsibility and announced plans to strengthen early detection, health information systems, referral mechanisms, and psychosocial support as part of the ministry's future priorities.
Agriculture, Irrigation and Fisheries Minister Salma Suqatri met with FAO resident representative to Yemen Adam Yao in Aden to discuss the implementation of development and strategic projects in the agriculture, irrigation and fisheries sector. The meeting reviewed progress on ongoing joint projects and discussed priorities for the next phase, including expanding development initiatives to support agricultural production and rehabilitate infrastructure. Minister Suqatri stressed the importance of strengthening the ministry's strategic partnership with FAO and accelerating priority projects through closer technical and institutional coordination to improve production and enhance food security. For his part, FAO Resident Representative Adam Yao reaffirmed the organization's commitment to supporting the ministry and aligning future programs with the Yemeni government's priorities to strengthen food security and improve livelihoods in rural communities.
Minister of State for Women's Affairs Dr. Ahad Jassous stressed the importance of empowering women and to strengthen their participation in peace building and decision-making during a workshop on collaborative advocacy held in Aden. The workshop, organized by partners Yemen, focused on promoting Yemen's participation in a trickle to peace process and brought together women leaders from Aden, Taiz, Hadramaut, and Marib. Jassous highlighted the need for coordinated efforts to expand women's role across different sectors and enable them to contribute to peace and development. In a separate virtual dialogue hosted in Marib, participants discussed women's economic and political empowerment and the challenges facing displaced women. The minister reaffirmed the government's commitment to making women's issues a national priority and called for stronger partnership with women's organizations and civil society to support inclusive policies and sustainable development.
A meeting chaired by Aden Governor Abdulrahman Sheikh reviewed the progress of the war-damaged housing reconstruction project and the results of its first phase. Officials said the initial phase restored and rehabilitated 350 homes in a Tawahi district, helping improve living conditions for affected families. The meeting also discussed preparations for the project's second phase, which is awaiting funding from the Arab Fund for Economic and Social Development to expand reconstruction efforts across more damaged areas in Aden. Governor Sheikh called for the swift completion of technical and administrative procedures to begin implementation once funding is finalized, while stressing transparency and coordination with development partners.
Yemen participated in the 96th Executive Council meeting of the Arab Bureau of Education for the Gulf states, held virtually with education officials from member countries. The meeting reviewed the Bureau's strategy 2020-2026 and discussed strengthening cooperation in digital transformation, artificial intelligence, and improving education quality. Participants also examined programs supporting regional education cooperation and attended workshops on private tutoring known as shadow education and the opportunities and challenges of using artificial intelligence in education. During the meeting, Yemen's Deputy Minister of Education Dr. Ali Al-Abbad called for an international conference to mobilize regional and global support for Yemen's education sector, strengthen rehabilitation efforts, and help ensure the continuity of education despite ongoing challenges.
The first International Conference on Digital Transformation, Innovation and Sustainable Development, DTISD, has opened in 2026 Aden, organized by the University of Aden in partnership with the Arab Academy for Administrative, Financial and Banking Sciences in Yemen. A three-day event brings together researchers, academics and technology experts from 32 Arab and foreign countries to discuss digital transformation, artificial intelligence, data sciences, entrepreneurship and other emerging technologies. Higher Education Minister Dr. Amin Nu'man said the conference reflects the need to keep pace with rapid technological change, stressing that investing in human capital is essential for sustainable development. He also encouraged Yemen universities to strengthen strategic planning, expand international partnerships, and enhance research and academic quality. University of Aden President Dr. Al-Khadir Laswar described the conference as a milestone for the university, expressing hope it will foster long-term academic cooperation in joint research initiatives.
That was the news bulletin from SABA satellite channel from Marib. Thank you for watching and have a good time.
Have a good time.